Well, good morning, sunshine, and welcome to a special episode of Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get Go Cafe and Market, where they are serving you at your car. They come out. It's curbside service. You order on the app, sit there, roll down the window, and wait for it. I did it last night, Moan, at 2 in the morning, and it worked
Wow.
beautifully.
Wow.
I was
That's first
hungry.
class.
I was
That's first
hungry,
class.
and they're open. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to get in the car and go, don't you?
Sometimes you do. We were just talking about that. You just got to
We were.
get out and go safely. You were out at 2 in the morning, though.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, it was. I felt safe. I was going slowly, aware of possible drunk drivers in the right lane. I was okay.
Man, that's the risky part of the night right there for sure. Well, I'm glad you good and got what you needed and was able to go back home. I like
Let's
that.
Let's talk a little bit about Marquise Pouncey. You brought him up in your column.
I did. It was
Beautifully, I might
fitting.
add.
It was fitting to bring him up, man.
Because he's something special. I don't know that people understand when they hear on the outside, and I consider myself to be on the outside, regardless of how much time I spend in your room and talking to you guys. I'm an outsider as well. When you hear about Marquise is the leader, the way Marquise goes is the way the Steelers go. Not everybody understands that. You were literally shoulder to shoulder with this man for a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. There's not another thing in sports like it, Moan. There's not another position where you can say, like, the third baseman doesn't spend his whole career shoulder to shoulder with the shortstop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, to me. It was a family feel to it. With just from day one when he first came into the door, we naturally gravitated towards each other. And it's always I always ask him about it. It's like, why did you do this? Like, man, if I went with you, I probably wouldn't have made it here in this situation. And I think it was a lot of we had a lot of the similar things. We were from the South. We were two black kids. I mean, it was just a bunch of that out there. And what I grew to appreciate about him, number one, is he knows what he is and what he likes. And when you're around him, if he's with you, you can do no wrong. You are 100% golden in his book. You are with him. It's been times I've gone to his camp in Florida, and here I am, this guy that's his teammate from Tennessee. I don't see him on a day-to-day basis, and it gets to the point to where it's like, okay, he's treating me better than some of his family members around here. You know? Like he's golden in that sense, man. And if you're around him and you know him and you have conversation with him, you can see it pour out of him. And I'm glad I got a chance to see that side of him, along with his athletic side and, his day job of being a football player. He's a guy, man, that I always tell the story, and I mean it. There's no disrespect to anybody else that's around, but when he came in, Coach Kugler was our coach at the time, and we were having a good offense. I think this is when stuff was just really starting to pick back up. This was post the Super Bowl. Well, no, post not making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm, right.
Marquise was drafted the next year and stuff, and he told us, "You guys are here." He put the measuring stick about right here, which is heads above. It was early in the springtime. It's like, but Marquise is right here. And this is where you guys need to be at, and this is this. And he just went down and down, and I think I might have heard a little scuffs and stuff in the back room, and just like, who the heck does he think he is telling us we're the pros?
Yeah. We've been here. Who's this new guy?
We got a ring a year ago. That's what those guys were thinking. But if you were right-minded, you didn't take offense to that. And I was right-minded about it. I was like, you know what, maybe I can get better. And the thing about him, Marquise will drag you with him. He has a little candid saying that is like, man, you can lead. Somebody will say to him, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And he'd be like, but you can drown him. So, either you gonna come drink with me, or either you gonna come drink with him, or hey, there's a way out, okay? And that's just how it is. And when you play the game and you know where he's come from, you hear his upbringing from his parents or from his brother about how they had it. Marquise was a interracial kid before it was actually cool. And I say cool now because our nation is so blended. And, the black and white being together, black and Asian, white and Asian, like
It's not what it was. Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
what it was. It's still some, transgressions there, but they went through a lot of that, and to fight off that mentally and just be who they are now is super, super cool, man.
All right. Now we're going to do your other shoulder because it was Memorial Day. And I can't help but think of Alejandro Villanueva on Memorial Day. I understand there's a difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that involves the military, he's as close as a lot of us come to knowing someone who served over there in that time. This is a different individual.
Yes.
And I say that in the most respectful sense. He's so real. He will never, Ramon, he will never give you the answer he thinks you want. It's not to be defiant. If he agrees, he agrees. But it's so real. And there's not that many people like that in anybody's life.
Yeah, no, it's not. And the thing that I admire about him is, one, if you didn't know what he did in the past, you would never know.
Oh, never find out.
You might look at him and be like, man, this guy played college basketball. Little did he know this 6'10" guy was a captain in the Army during war times, and he actually was on the front line. And I don't think people understand, the fans, in the sense of how he grasped coming into the NFL and how he transformed himself considering where he had come from. I was actually at Cincinnati when he got the call to go serve. Like that in itself, and he left and did it. And not only that, but he saw stuff. He did stuff. He wasn't in the kitchen, no disrespect to them, but he wasn't filing papers or cleaning ammunition or just stockpiling like inventory.
No, he was out there.
He was out there. And yesterday, and the thing about him, he doesn't really like to, receive the Happy Veterans, and Memorial Day thing. He does not. He's like, that's not for me. And because I know guys that actually went through that stuff, and their families are I don't want to say they're suffering from it, but they've gone through heartache. And because of that, he's like, so don't tell me thank you for your service. He's like, man, I did that because that's how I feel about this country and what it means to serve. I admire how he has transitioned over to what he is now, man. It's not easy. And you get him around a fire and we're sitting around talking, you hear some stuff and you be like, oh my God. Yeah, like this is real. And for the people that want to walk out and say this, and that, or just criticize what it takes to actually do that, or mock it, or say that they are and they never were, that stolen valor stuff is, I know he's not a fan of it, but people who, that scream, I did this and this to my country, like, no, I know somebody that actually did it, and that's not how he acts.
Well, and I remember so vividly the scene in Chicago when we were taking turns after that game, running around to each one of you. Because, that was, of course, for anybody who doesn't remember, the anthem flap.
That was the hardest day. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I know. And I'm torn between, like, on one hand, we all have to respect, Allie's place in it, as I know that you guys did, as Coach Tomlin talked about. And at the same time, our job as reporters, and my job that day, was to just get as much, that's what we're there for. We're there to get information. And I remember, like, Dave in particular, who we're going to talk about in the next segment, David DeCastro, was pulling me at the elbow, like, because he saw that I was heading to go somewhere else, and he wasn't letting me go somewhere else.
Yeah.
He Dave, he wanted me to hear what was up. Okay, so he waited until the other reporters were gone, and he told me what was up. We did the same thing with you. You sat there. I remember, like yesterday, you sat there for, must have been 20 minutes, which is an eternity in report.
Long. Yeah.
You weren't even dressed or nothing. You were just going to sit there and take every question to try to have his back as much as possible, because he couldn't come out in that situation.
No, a book, a movie, a short series could be written about that weekend, that week, that day. That was a trying time. It was it was crazy. And to feel sports be attacked on something in which we had nothing actually to do with it directly, and to be the voice for everybody when everybody's had a different voice was confusing. It made you mad, it made you sad, it disappointed you. And just to see everything that came out of it, Al was being used as propaganda for a lot of different groups that he didn't want to associate himself with, that just ran with what a picture. And that picture held no truth in the actual situation in which we were in. And if you try to explain to people what actually happened, it's like we left them out, and we didn't. We seriously got cut off by the NFL, what do you want to call them, entertainment group of people.
Yeah.
Al was leading us out. They were rushing off because I think we were late or something happened anyway. Yeah. And he was out by himself, and everybody else. Literally, if you look there, it was like hundreds of people in the in the tunnel behind us.
They were employees of the Bears. We found out that's what they worked for the Bears, and they weren't doing anything wrong either. And Ben tried to explain that, and it didn't. It just the image of Ali just standing out there by himself would be the very last thing that any of you would allow to happen. But Ali had no idea. Like,
yes,
he just happened to be in the front line because that was the way that you guys and Ben wanted it. And then he just walks out there.
Field. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a long tunnel. Yeah. I'm just all I know.
You see how I'm talking. I see how you're explaining.
I know. Okay. And then on top of that, losing to the Bears and everything else, and it was just like, oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What a day! What a day!
I was exhausted, and I'll tell anybody, it was the first time in the history of ever playing a game where I let an outside entity affect how I felt about the game of football.
Yeah,
or how it changed the way I looked at everything moving forward. Like, that was the first time that something had tainted the game for me, because they used the game to push their agendas.
Yep. All right, so we've gotten to either of your shoulders here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't leave off the gentleman who was on Marquise's other shoulder here, because David DeCastro, on one hand, does not seem like the kind of guy that would fit in with your group. Do you know what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I know what you're
on
saying.
One hand, it's like, especially if you factor in Marcus Gilbert, as a guy who on the right tackle. And Marcus and you had kind of a similar vibe, and Marquise, and Ali to an extent. Dave is so different, and at the same time, not all that different.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because he's got that same fire that you guys have. He was the one that was knocking bodies over like you were whenever something bad would happen in Cincinnati or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is, man. Here's this West Coast guy, man, from one of the most chill places in America. He's from Washington, and then he goes to a very chill college. High strong education wise, but he goes to Stanford, and then he comes all the way to Pittsburgh to be around a bunch of degenerates. And like you said, it doesn't look like he's supposed to be around a group, but he is. He's one of the cogs in the wheel. That's part of the group, man. And I'll say this too about Dave. Dave he hasn't changed who he is, though. In that he just found out he's more like us, and truth be told, we're a lot like him in a lot of ways too. And it's kind of cool to see him show personality, get a little fire under him, the jokes that he has, and even what he brings to the table. Anytime we have a math question, we just look at Dave, what's the percentage of this right here? And he just reels it off, because it's like, we got to take advantage of your tools too, So
his tools.
His tools. He probably could have gone to any just high academic college in the nation, probably the world for that matter.
Yeah, he's off the charts.
And the football to him, I think, is an extreme hobby for him. That's how it is.
It's a release. I think it's a release. The way he and I have discussed it in the past, it's like he genuinely loves it, but he loves it in its place.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's what I was gonna say about him. Like look at the way he's in his stance about how like his stance. I tried to do it one time where he has this. You can probably look at a still picture. He has this lean that he has in his stance. And I try to think. I'm like, why or how can you even function like that, David? And I tried it one time, and I think it do in practice, and Cam might have swim moved me. I'm like, you know what? That's for Dave, because Dave psychologically is going to live in that world of his, and he's really damn good at what he does, though. I got to give it to
Yeah,
him.
no, he's made himself into a truly special player in the National Football League. I do feel obligated to throw an asterisk onto something that you said, though. You said that Dave's never changed. There was one thing that Dave did that he changed. And I
What
think
he did.
you know what I'm going to mention. His rookie year, remember? Well, you wouldn't know this. We would, but he would give us these super crazy short answers. And we thought, well, here's this introvert. And he did this through the whole 16-game schedule. No matter
Yeah.
what we'd ask him, Dave, can you let us know, about this technique that you're using? It's a good technique. Like, we thought this guy went to Stanford. So the next year, all of a sudden, starting in Latrobe, Dave is like waxing philosophic on things, like out of nowhere. And we're like, where did this guy come from? Well, it turns out he felt like he belonged in a certain place as a
Yeah.
rookie, that
Yeah.
he did not want to cross over that line, including with us. I think we saw some of that last year, Moan, with some of the rookie guys that you did have, where they were really
Yeah.
careful about talking to us. They were like, no, those guys down there, they're the ones that do the talking. Go
Yeah.
talk to them. And
It's
look, go ahead.
you
Yeah,
gotta earn your keep. Dave,
yeah,
he embodies that. And if you're smart and you're gonna be around, you truly you take that role on, because what I'm doing here is trying to carve out my own path. And I think when Dave started playing the game and being in games and being more sure of himself about the game, about being in the NFL, that's when you open up a little bit. The guy that comes in yelling, screaming, and kicking, man, he's just vying for the wrong attention. And that will get you shipped out quick. I'll tell guys all the time, do what you want to do. Enjoy the spoils of being in this league, but never forget why they love you. They love you because of what you do on that gridiron, on that turf, on Sunday, Mondays, and Thursdays, and sometimes Saturday too, I guess.
yeah.
But Dave is the guys who are smart. They do that. They take that approach. They don't know what to say. They don't really say much at all until they figure it out. And yeah, I respect that about him. That's true. Now he's very charismatic. Did he win the Chief Award this year too, or last year?
And deservedly so, and got my vote. And again, first of all, the Chief Award, you can't give it to. You can't just make it a rotating award between you and Cam year after year after year.
It
You know what I
should have
mean?
been. Okay. It should have been.
Yeah, he earned it, and a lot of that stuff comes from, I know that whenever I've put my votes in on that, I would weigh a lot on who was standing up after losses.
Yeah.
It's easy to do it after wins. It's a lot harder after losses, and it's not always just who stands there the longest or who gives the best answer. It's who's putting in the thought and the time, and that's not easy
Yeah.
to do. That means you're respecting our profession and what we do for a living. And there's, with the Steelers room, and I've put this in print for years to our readers, there isn't one like it in Pittsburgh, and there hasn't been for a while. And I know that sometimes that flies in the face of some preconceived notions
So,
that people have.
yeah.
But it's been great in that regard, and Dave's been a big part of it. And what an amazing group you guys have had! What an
It is,
amazing
man.
group!
I don't know when the rest of the gang is gonna do what I'm doing or just pull out, but boy, we've had a really, 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 really good run. And not only that, we've all like strengthened our like friendships, our relationships, like our families know each other. It's like it gets to the point to where we've talked so much in our group chat sometimes it's just like we find ways to try to argue with one another simply
Mm.
because we know what the other one's going to say, or we just got to go against the grain sometimes. So this group that I've been around, including Gil also, has been one of the most solid just units that I think people have probably experienced or just wanted to be around or just see the show, considering where we came from, all young knuckleheads that were um, pushed under or at least not given second thoughts about stuff, to where now Pittsburgh is looked as a place to like, hey, you got to beat their O-line before you do anything else. And
Yep.
that's super commendable, man.
That's that legacy you talk about all the time.
Don't let, yeah.